Hey everybody, welcome. We are doing the spot of tea, and I've got some friends here with me, Evelyn, Joe, and Heather, and we're going to dig into time management. So I'll just literally dive right in. And the idea of time management to me has always been fascinating because it's this mythology that you can somehow manage time, and we all get the same 24 hours, and we don't get to bank it for another day. So I love this idea of really thinking about it as energy as opposed to minutes in a day. Where am I going to put that energy? How do I get that energy? Where are those things that are in my control? What do I have influence over? Versus I've got somehow to do everything that's on my to-do list, which even in normal times, whatever those were, was pretty much impossible. So I'm going to dig in, and we've got some experts here in terms of time management. And I'll just say, kicking off with this first tip that we've got here on our top 5, it is about that sense of control. And I know that that's something we as a firm talk about quite a bit. Like, what do we have control over in terms of the work we do, or the time that we have to do that kind of work in, and really stepping back from it's all on my shoulders. That I can actually ask for help, and here's the things that I know I can do with this time, this energy that I've got. And I know that we've talked about, you and I, Heather, have talked about just scheduling that energy management because we've done so much work remotely over the last few years. What are some of the things that you've run into?
You know, I think the thing with energy is sometimes people think it's very like, ooh, woo, woo. And it's, to me, it's more about when am I sleepy and when can I get more done in those 5 minutes that I've got energy than in the 5 hours that I'm drained. And, knowing yourself, we talked about this, and Joe and I were talking. I get up now, I'm not a morning person, but I do get up at 5 a.m. and that those 2 hours, I pump out more work than I would if I just started doing that because of distractions or energy. The other thing, like with your idea of focus on control, is I've been doing this for a while, but every Friday I look at least 2 to 3 weeks out, and I know we don't know what's going to happen 2 to 3 weeks, but I budget time for the things that I know I want to make sure I get to that are not the reactive points. And that kind of leads to being able to get some of that long-term stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Generally, when I think about the short-term, long-term, it's you want to act locally, but you've got to think globally. You've got to think about the long term, and you've got to put time aside for it. Otherwise, it just never gets done. I remember hearing once, well, if it's important, it'll get done. No, it turns out that what you end up doing turns out to be important. And so if you really do want to focus that time on the long term, some of those longer term goals, you've got to invest the time. You've got to carve out in your schedule. And maybe it's just trying to find those little places in between in order to be able to set time aside to be able to do that more long-term type stuff. Because it pays off in dividends.
Yeah, and I think there's even that urgent versus important.
Yeah.
It'll always supersede important, whatever's right in front of me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we've been noticing is the urgency also comes from other people, external forces. I know, Evelyn, you've got quite a few external forces.
Oh, absolutely. So I think along the timing needs, we need to communicate, we need to collaborate, whether it's with your team at work, right? We are now introducing our home environment. So I think it's important to communicate with those that you work with and let them know, hey, this is my situation at home. Perhaps what I used to do on a daily basis, and I used to be more timely with my reports or my emails, has now changed a little bit because I'm homeschooling and I have this going on. And then the same thing goes with your family, right? It's communicating the deadlines that you need to complete and perhaps some alone time that you need in order to manage that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because over the years, and Joe and I first even joined your firm, we talked about time management and did it fit within communication? And it really is only about communication. There's like this little tactical piece. And the rest of it moves into this 5th tip, which is how do you set clear boundaries and communicate to somebody that I've got too much on my plate right now. And you don't have to say it that way. You can say, when did you need this? And I think it used to be easier if you could walk down the hall and say, was this something you needed in 20 minutes or 20 days? And
Right.
we have to be a little bit more conscious and thoughtful about those things now, and make the requests. I think some of this is really us really coming to terms with how often we say yes to other people, and are we really saying yes to ourselves in terms of going even back to energy. Where do I get it? Where can I put it? Anything that you guys would add is just sort of final thoughts in terms of your recent wins on managing time.
I think it's important also to be direct, right? It's being direct about what it is that you need timing wise. Others aren't going to know what you have going on at home, right? Others don't know that perhaps you have little kids around, maybe you're taking care of your mother. So I think it's important to be very direct as far as the time needed to accomplish things.
Yeah, the one thing I would say when it comes to time, it is the only limited commodity that we've got. You don't get to buy more time.
Yeah.
And so be precious with it, especially nowadays, be precious with it.
Yeah, and I would throw on there, like, be so precious. On the other side of it, don't be a jackwagon with people's time. And I mean that because from the perspective of people will ask, like, oh, are you, what are you doing at that time? Is that really blocked on your calendar? Is it a real meeting?
Right.
And I always ask, what is it that you need? And let's figure out how to make that happen. How I'm spending my time, even if you're the manager, I see managers get wrapped around of like, are they really working during that hour? And instead of just sitting back and going, actually just focus on what's the thing that you're not receiving and have that conversation versus, I don't know, I just find it really weird and invasive how people want to know exactly what you're doing at that time.
Cool. So Heather, if I was listening correctly, number one, time is not woo, and you don't want to be a jackwagon.
Yes, those
All right.
two.
I
Let's
appreciate it.
there.
Thanks.
And we could probably talk about this for hours because I just started flashing on the excessive Zoom meetings people are talking about, the things that, we've just devolved into this thing of we better set up a meeting and the camera better be on. And the ability to start pushing back a little on that in terms of having conversations with leadership. Would we have had this meeting if we were all on site?
That's good.
Could this have been a different platform because it's more time effective? And I want to be time effective. So I'm going to go ahead and just thank people for joining us today and using the few minutes that you had to listen to us, and reach out to us if you want to forward this on because you think it's helpful, but also don't hesitate to reach out because I'll tell you, I struggle saying no to people who call me for help. And I know my peers do too. So reach out, and thank you so much for joining us at
Thank
Spot of Tea.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.